Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather. Thanks for joining us. I'm meteorologist Kimberley Hoeppner, and today is Friday, December 12, 2014. When we're not on air, you can always come visit our website to get our information at www.arh.noaa.gov, or you can call our information phone line at 1-800-472-0391. In just a moment, we'll be talking about your marine, public, and aviation forecasts. First, on to the headlines of the day. What we're going to be pointing out for the upcoming weekend is a developing low in the southern Gulf. Okay, and then we have also another storm system brewing out in the Bering, and then we have a warming trend for the upcoming weekend that we'll talk about, and a mix of snow and rain through the weekend with that warming trend. So now on to the satellite to look out towards the west to see what's coming our way. We have this large low pressure system, quite impressive looking on satellite there over the Kamchatka Peninsula, with a comet cloud already nudging into the central area of the Aleutians. Putting that into motion, you can see that moisture plume just pulling up on the jet stream here all the way into the southern parts of the Bering. Putting that into motion one more time, you can also notice the low clouds are all covered across the Bering. So cloudy conditions here. Putting that into motion, you see how this is just kind of nosing in towards the eastern Aleutians. And then taking a look closer at home, we also have another low pressure system that I mentioned. Here's the low pressure system that'll be affecting the southern Gulf waters this weekend. We want to keep an eye out on that. We do have some low clouds across the Gulf of Alaska. However, they weren't picked up on satellite as the cloud tops are very close to the water temperatures there. Partly cloudy skies along the southeastern areas with some shower activity up along the panhandle, a mix of rain and snow as you go inland and the higher elevations have snow. Across the central areas, we had mainly low clouds all across here and mid-level clouds with some light snow shower activity all along the interior without much accumulation. As you can see, there's cloud cover all across the north and northwest and back towards the southwest as well. Putting that into motion one more time, you can see the general motion is a northward trend with this low pressure system. So putting this into motion one more time, you can see how this low pressure system is going to be moving up, and this next one is going to be affecting the west coast. As we head in to your map to recap today, this low that's just south of the Gulf of Alaska is a 974 millibar, mainly a rain system as this is a warm core low. Along the southeast here's where the shower activity was this afternoon with a few breaks in the sky across the southern areas near the Dixon entrance. The shower activity that was across the central interior has tapered off since the previous front that came inland yesterday has tapered off during the day today. So just light shower activity, some patchy fog. Along the northern coast, still a easterly flow, a little bit strong across the northeastern areas with blowing snow, reducing visibilities here. Across the northern Bering, still some gustier winds out of the north between 20 and 30 miles per hour, some higher gusts. The eastern areas of the Bering are in a lull between the storm systems right now, just a weak ridge breaking up the two pressure systems. Here's the main low, the main surface low attached to the upper level storm. It's got a occluded front kind of stretching out towards the chain, and just warmer air masses bringing all rain to the south with a colder air mass just behind it, demarked by these darker clouds behind the blue frontal area. Now looking at your forecast for tonight, you will see this front pushing towards the central areas of the Bering. We'll see a mix of rain and snow all along the frontal boundary with mainly a colder, drier air mass after that front pushes through. Rain will be all south of the chain, so So it's just a showery activity behind the front, but we will see a patchy fog along with the precipitation conditions along the frontal boundary. This low pressure system here into the southern Gulf will be pushing some water, some rain along with this system. Like I said, it's warm core. So some showers will move out ahead of it, but mainly staying over the Gulf waters for tonight. A mix of rain and snow possible across the southeast, but overall they're not going to see much precipitation overnight, as well as the interior areas and along the northern coast. They will be experiencing some gusty wind conditions with the blowing snow all along the northwest towards the Seward Peninsula, and then a weaker trend as the break between the systems exists across the southwestern areas and the eastern Bering. Looking at your forecast for this weekend, heading into Saturday, this low pressure system is not going to make quick progress, but you can see the isobars around the low pressure system are very tightly packed, and this is going to cause some wind gusty problems all across the Gulf waters and all the coastal areas neighboring it. So the southeast will start feeling its effect by mid-morning, possibly towards the Dixon entrance, as this kind of creeps into the southeastern areas of the Gulf. And then across the mainland, mainly dry conditions for your first half of the day on Saturday. This low pressure system, like I said, is a little bit slower to creep north. So you will get some overrunning ahead of the system, some shower activity mainly along the mountain ranges and along the western Gulf, as the Cook Inlet should be mainly dry for most of the day tomorrow. Kodiak Island should see precipitation, however, and they'll see a mix of rain and snow at the Kodiak Island areas. And then across the inland locations, enjoy the break, because not much winds, some snow and patchy fog, but otherwise just very cold conditions continue across the central areas. Across the north and northwestern areas, expect that easterly flow to continue with the blowing snow across the northwestern areas. Kind of have a stationary boundary, as we have very cold temperatures that are kind of along the Brooks Range and just to the south towards the Bering. And then the cold transitions across the northern Bering towards slightly warmer temperatures, but we're talking about temperatures mainly in the mid-30s out here, so mixed precipitation for tomorrow as this front just kind of slowly pushes across towards the eastern part of the Bering. This low pressure system here, a 978 millibar, will be a new developing low system, and this will be pushing warmer air towards the Alaska Peninsula. They'll have a break with the wind early part of the day on Saturday, but their winds will be picking up in the afternoon, so be out on the lookout for gusty winds as this low pressure system begins to develop, and possibly along the eastern areas of the Aleutians as well. So heading into your Sunday forecast, this low pressure system's picks up some speed and moves up into the eastern areas of the Bering, and this will bring colder air in behind it. So very gusty winds are expected across the eastern half of the Aleutians on Sunday. And then this front that's pushing into the coastal areas, that's with the remnant low pressure that'll be moving on up towards the coast. This will keep a very tight gradient again across the southeast, bring mainly rain and then snow in the higher elevations as you head over towards the Panhandle, and you'll keep that mix of rain and snow as this front pushes inland and an upper level wave moves in. There's also going to be a chance for pockets of freezing rain possibly as you head into your day on Sunday. And then along the southwestern areas, again here the warmer temperatures are going to make it in across the northern areas of this low. So they'll see a mixed precip across the parts of the southwestern mainland, and then across the southern areas of the Bering with the warm temperatures mixing in. They'll continue in a rain-snow mix. However, across the western areas of the Bering, cold air is going to be pushing in on the backside of these systems, so their precip will be changing over to all snow. Across the northern areas, fairly quiet across the northeastern Beaufort Sea as the stationary boundary stays across towards the northwest. However, as this low pressure pushes north into this high pressure that's setting off of the eastern areas of Russia, that's going to squeeze the gradient and cause gusty winds to continue through Sunday along the northwest and the northern Bering Strait area. So be on the lookout for strong gusty winds this weekend. Snow, if they have snow amounts up here, it's going to be very light, from 1/2 of an inch up to 2 inches. Across the southeast, rain amounts for the weekend will be between 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and light precip over across much of the Gulf waters towards Kodiak Island. Looking at your temperatures for today, kind of warmish across the southeast in the upper 30s to mid 40s, high of 47 at Annette this afternoon, and then across the remainder of the Gulf waters in the mid 30s to the lower 40s over there at Middleton Island, and in the mid 30s for Kodiak. Across the interior, a quick change over to the single digits with the range between 0 and 10 degrees until you get up to the northern slope, and then another change for colder temperatures, with Point Lay only seeing actually minus 17 degrees during the afternoon hours. Seward Peninsula just right around 0, and then across the southwestern areas they saw temperatures only in the lower teens, and then across the Alaska Peninsula slightly warmer here with temperatures in the mid 30s all the way out through the Aleutian chain. They saw temperatures in the mid 30s. And then for your forecast tonight, expect those temperatures to continue in the mid 30s, dropping a little bit in the Alaska Peninsula. Along the southern areas of the state, expect temperatures in the teens to lower 20s, a little bit warmer along the Cook Inlet in the mid 30s, and mid 30s to near 40 near the Dixon entrance. Across the interior, temperatures are going to be below 0, with the coldest along the northern slope. As we head in your day tomorrow, not too much warming. Temperatures still staying below 0 along the northern slope and across much of the interior. The southern areas of the state will see temperatures in the mid-teens to upper 20s for the most part, and the southeast will be the warmest with temperatures in the upper 30s to low 40s. And across the Bering, we'll see temperatures moderating in the mid to lower 30s. For your flying weather tomorrow, expect MVFR conditions all across the state as we have several low pressure systems in the area, with IFR conditions just along the frontal boundaries that these low pressure systems are pushing towards the mainland. Now to go into your passes in more depth, Anatuvik Pass is going to be MVFR, and Adigan Pass will be MVFR. Lake Clark and Merrill Pass will be both MVFR. And then Rainy will be MVFR, Windy MVFR, and Isabel MVFR. Mentasta MVFR, and Tanita Pass will be MVFR. Portage will be IFR, possibly improving to MVFR. And then Chilkoot and White Pass will both be MVFR. Looking at your freezing levels along the Gulf Coast and the Panhandle here, and all the way back towards the central areas, the Bering, and then your freezing heights will be 2,000 to 4,000 feet south of the Bering, and then 2,000 to 4,000 in the south of the Gulf water. Now looking at your icing tomorrow, mainly along these low pressure systems out here in the Bering, expect it to be above 5,000 feet as the system is still kind of cool in the Bering, and above 8,000 feet as you get south of the Aleutian chain, and then above 8,000 feet for the icing levels across the Gulf waters. Looking at your jet stream for tomorrow, we have a westerly flow with a high amplification across the eastern areas of the Gulf of Alaska. So expect this system to be pushed. This next system will be pushed the very next one will be pushed towards the east. So looking at the 9,000 foot levels, you have a southerly flow across much of the Bering, with the strongest winds to the south of this low pressure system, with wind speeds getting up to 60 knots. The other area of concern is going to be around this other low pressure system in the Gulf, with 40 to 50 knots out of the southeast across much of the Gulf. And across the southern mainland, also speeds will be looking at 40 to 45 knots. Looking at the 3,000 foot level, this is a stacked system, so 40 to 60 knots is pretty accurate across the eastern areas of this low pressure system, with the southerly flow across the state between 10 and 25 knots. And of course, again, stronger winds across the system out across the Bering, with the strongest winds approaching the central parts of the Aleutians tomorrow, and also across the eastern Bering. You should be on the lookout. So for your turbulence tomorrow, it will be the light to moderate conditions across much of the Gulf waters, with occasional widespread moderate conditions below 10,000 feet along the eastern Gulf, and then below 10,000 feet across much of the Bering Sea for your day tomorrow. We'll be back in just a moment with your marine forecast.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Harry Keeling, and on behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media, welcome to Hangar Flying. We're very fortunate to have this evening Dr. Bill Rhodes. Bill was on the program on Monday and talked about some of the findings in a fascinating study he's done. In fact, I've followed Bill for a couple of years, and some of the thoughts that he has on professional piloting, we all could benefit from. Welcome back, Bill.
Delighted to be here, Harry. Thanks.
A couple of things that have stuck in my mind. Self-mastery may be more important than aircraft mastery. Talk about that.
Well, I think if we spend any time around aviators, we run across the phrase, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Or in a hangar flying session, people might say, yeah, that seemed like a bad idea, but I did it anyway, and now I regret it, or I'm kicking myself. It's one thing to know what to do. It's an entirely different thing to actually do it. Ask anybody who's dieted or tried to quit smoking about that phenomenon. So we're interested not just in understanding what it is that pilots know, but how they translate what they know into what they actually do. And we call that self-mastery. The ability to do what there are the best reasons to do is self-mastery.
Now, Bill, one of the things that I remembered from one of your talks is, I think it's a three-stage process. So are we talking about perception, judgment, and commitment?
We are. We measured three aspects of professionalism: the capacity to smoke out or detect a threat to the safety of flight, the capacity to think through the best course of action, particularly in ambiguous situations where there may be no right answer, but some answers are nonetheless better than others. And third, once we've completed that process of deciding what the best course of action is, actually carrying out that course of action. One of our thoughts is that if we have a pilot-induced mishap in a competent pilot, that is a pilot who can pass check rides, it probably results from a failure in one or more of those three areas of professionalism.
Now, Bill, I think it was last time you were talking a little bit about the simulator, and you said that some pilots did fine. You said some pilots basically killed themselves in the simulator. But something that really struck me as interesting was that you mentioned of those people killed in the simulator, what resulted was often a very powerful motivator not to do that again. Did I say that right?
You said that right. We were stunned to see the radical improvement in, we had a pre-post test design. That is, each of our pilots flew two scenarios. And on the first scenario, they could either pass or fail. Passing meant safe on airport landing. Failure was anything else that would result in some kind of damage to an aircraft or a fatality or bodily injury. The pilots who flew well in the first scenario, that is, they landed safely, didn't find much differently in the second. No, there was no statistical difference. But for those who hurt themselves in the first scenario, simulated crash or off-airport event, they improved radically by about 2/3. So we had a drop, I think, from 68 down to 27 mishaps pre-post for those pilots, for those 68 pilots who hurt themselves on the first ride.
Wow. So the motivator is, and these people knew that some of their colleagues flew it okay.
Yes, we think it's critical that the pilot actually own the experience. We didn't provide any training, but those who failed came back and said things like, I really learned something about myself and I've been interested in hitting the books or thinking this through. How did I make that mistake? And I think it's that self-directed learning that self-examination that really accounts for the improvement.
Wow. And of course, the beauty of it, it was in the simulator, and they didn't have to learn the lesson in blood.
Exactly, and it's similar to the phenomenon I think many of us have experienced where we've scared ourselves in an airplane and we vowed, let's not do that again.
Right.
Doesn't take an instructor in that case.
You know, we've got just a minute left. I'm going to get you back on one more time because I've got a couple of phrases that you've coined I want to share with our audience and let you talk a little bit more about it. I think it's a phenomenal study and we've got so much to learn. So thanks for being on the program tonight. We'll get you back one more time.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. And I would like to remind you that the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation, who sponsors this program, who sponsored the seminar that Bill was the guest speaker at, but we only can do it, it's a member-supported organization. None of the board of directors are paid. We all volunteer, but we need your help. We need you to renew your membership for 2014. The letters are in the mail. It's $35 for individuals, $110 for corporate, and $15 for students. Please help us out. Please help us out so we can bring programs like this to you and also the seminars. And until next time, fly safe.
And welcome back to the show. Here's our ice edge that was taken today. We have ice all the way down towards Bristol Bay, and then the biggest thing is going to be the northeasterly flow that's going to help the ice edge kind of grow out towards the St. Lawrence Islands. So there is some ice along here, and another thing to note is that there is some ice along the northern part of the inlet here, so mainly moving with the tides. So otherwise, you know, still mostly ice covered across the north and west coasts, of course. Looking at your forecast for the southeast for this upcoming weekend, we're going to have some stronger winds here on Saturday with the gales along the outer waters around 35 knots, 30 as you get up towards Yakutat, and then they'll be out of the south to east direction. Across the inner channels, expect a change of direction from south to north as you get towards the northern Lynn Canal, and the seas will be between 2 and 5 feet on Saturday, and across the outer waters expect between 10 and 13 feet. Heading into your Sunday forecast, stronger winds on this day, mostly out of the south and east directions along the eastern areas of the Gulf waters, and then across the inner channels, a northerly flow, 25 knots, and gales across the southern areas with wind direction changing out of the southeast. And across the inner channels, seas will be between 5 and 7 feet. Your outer waters will be between 22 to 25 feet. Looking out at the western areas of the Gulf, winds direction will be mainly out of the north and northeast directions between 20 and 30 knots. So some small craft advisories there. And then across the Cook Inlet, Shelikof Strait, 15 knots out of the north to northwest direction even. And then along the Cook Inlet, 3-foot seas with that's all the way down through the Barren Islands, Shelikof Strait. And then the Prince William Sound will see 4-foot seas, and across the western Gulf between 9 and 15 feet with the highest seas towards the northern areas of the Gulf. Looking at your Sunday forecast, much stronger winds on this day with storm force winds there in the northern Gulf out of the southeast direction, and then 40 knots across the Prince William Sound, so rough waters for you on Sunday. Across the western Gulf, change of wind direction here out of the west, and then a northerly flow across the Cook Inlet through Shelikof Strait. Very strong winds up here. Gale wind criteria 9 to 10 feet along the Cook Inlet, and then drops down to 5 foot for the Shelikof Strait. Across the Prince William Sound, expect high seas near 10 feet. And then across the Gulf waters, a range from 12 to 27 feet with the highest seas across where the coastal jet is going to be setting up over there. Now for your Saturday marine forecast across the Alaska Peninsula, expect between 10 knots for Bristol Bay to 30 knots for the Alaska Peninsula, including the southern areas with small craft advisories at 25 knots, southerly, southwesterly direction for the most part, with northerly flow as you get towards Kodiak Island. 3 to 7 foot seas on the Bering side and 9 to 10 feet Pacific side. Looking at your Sunday forecast, southerly direction, gale criteria as winds pick up out of the south with a 25 knot wind out of the northeast for Bristol Bay, 4 to 11 foot seas across the Bering, and 8 to 21 foot seas across the Pacific areas. And yes, that 8 was correct, because there is a little bit of a lull between the next system that's pushing to the north. Across the Aleutian chain, expect mainly gales towards the east and small craft towards the west out of the south and southwesterly directions, with seas ranging between 10 and 20 feet for your Saturday forecast. And then we head into your Sunday forecast, more of a westerly flow, mostly gales across the area with some max gale gusts. The seas will be between 20 and 25 feet with this system as we head through your day on Sunday. Looking at the west coast, they're going to see mostly small craft gale criteria up towards St. Matthew Island, and the wind direction is going to be changing with the multiple systems coming through, mainly a northerly to northeasterly flow across the north and out of the south as you head towards the central areas of the Gulf. And seas would be between 5 and 10 feet on Saturday. On Sunday, more of a north to easterly direction, gale criteria up towards St. Lawrence Island, and then the sea heights will be between 10 and 15 feet. Looking at your northern coast, northerly flow here with brisk wind advisories out there, 3 foot seas across the Kotzebue Sound. And then Sunday, not much change in wind direction, just a little bit more northeast. One recap of your forecast: front is pushing across the Aleutians and one heading towards the southeast. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
It's never too early to set expectations and goals for your child's education. The UA College Savings Plan provides opportunities that can help you reach your educational savings goals. Save in Alaska. Study anywhere. There is more information available by calling 1-888, the number 4, and then Alaska. This message sponsored by the UA College Savings Plan.